Okay, so I just have a few follow-up questions and then we'll wrap up for today.
Okay.
Okay. So you had mentioned that about 6 months ago, you made a suicide attempt where you took a knife into the bathroom. Can you tell me a little bit more about what happened?
It had just been a really difficult day, and I had just kind of had it. And I didn't think there was any other way out, and that my husband would be better off without me. So I grabbed a big knife from the kitchen and took it into the bathroom. I started the bathtub so my husband would think I was taking a bath. I made a big cut on my left wrist. Probably about a ½ inch deep. I could feel the pain and blood was getting everywhere, but I didn't feel like I was completely there, you know? I don't know how much time had passed, but it must have been a while because Tim came to the door, started knocking and asking me what I was doing. I said I was taking a bath. He said I had been in there a while and wanted to know if I was okay. He said he could hear me crying. I tried to tell him I was fine and to go away, but I think he knew better. He jimmied the lock and got into the bathroom and took the knife away from me before I could cut my other wrist. Then he wrapped up my wrist, got me in the car, and we went to the hospital.
Gosh, I'm really glad they made it to the hospital.
Yeah, me too. That cut sounded pretty severe.
Yes, it really did. So let's transition and let's take a look at the clinical tool and see how we would actually classify this event. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is answer question 1. Is there any indication that the person engaged in self-directed violent behavior that was lethal, preparatory, or potentially harmful?
Okay, well, I think since she did make that cut, she certainly went beyond the thought and actually engaged in behavior. So this would be a yes.
That's absolutely right. So then we move on to question 3. Did the behavior involve any injury or did it result in death?
Not death, but she was injured, so yes.
Okay, great. So since the answer to that is yes, it tells us to go on to decision tree C. So the first question, was the injury fatal?
No, it wasn't. She made it to the hospital, and she was obviously here talking to me months later.
Good. So we'll say no here, and then we'll move on to the next question. Was the behavior interrupted by self or other? Do you think she was interrupted or stopped from going any further with her behavior?
I do. She said that her husband took the knife before she could cut her other wrist, insinuating that if he hadn't stopped her, she would have continued the cutting.
Nice job. Her description does allude to her being interrupted by her husband. She states that had he not come into the bathroom, she would have cut her other wrist. So let's say yes here, and then let's see what's next.
Okay. So the next question is there evidence of suicidal intent? I think there was suicidal intent.
Okay, well, let's go over the 3 elements of intent just to be sure.
Okay. So to start, she told me about this event in response to me asking her if she'd ever made a suicide attempt. That tells me that she understands her own behavior as being suicidal.
That's right.
Her explanation of kind of having it and seeing no other way out seems like vague descriptions of wanting to die.
Very good.
Also, when she says her husband would be better off without her, she's indicating her understanding that the result of cutting herself could be that she's not here anymore.
Nice job. I totally agree with you. So while she actually doesn't use the words, I wanted to die or I was suicidal, you describe enough evidence here to cover all of the criteria of intent.
Okay.
It's really important to remember that intent can be explicit or implicit. So based on all that information, what is the correct classification?
Well, the final term here on decision tree C is suicide attempt with injury interrupted by self or other.
Great job.